They told you wealth was about hard work. They said if you grind, hustle, sacrifice, and show up early, the gates of prosperity would open. And yet, here you are, working harder than ever, but still waiting, still hoping, still asking the question no one around you seems brave enough to face. Why do I do everything right and still feel replaceable? Because the truth is this: wealth is not blocked by effort, it's blocked by mindset. Not the cute, motivational kind, but the dark kind. The kind that no one dares talk about because it exposes everything the system is built to protect. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He watched how empires were built, not by virtue, but by control. Not by blending in, but by thinking differently. And above all, he saw one truth that no modern school, job, or motivational guru will ever admit. If you think like the masses, you'll live like them, no matter how hard you try. Let's begin there. With Rule 1 in the Machiavellian psychology of wealth. Rule 1: obedience is the enemy of wealth. From the day you're born, you're trained. Trained to wait your turn. Trained to ask for permission. Trained to raise your hand, follow the line, check the boxes. They don't call it indoctrination. They call it education. But what is it really teaching you? To follow instructions, to comply without resistance, to accept structure that someone else designed. And while obedience keeps you safe, it also keeps you small. Machiavelli warned, "He who follows others never leads. He who conforms never rules." Because here's the secret: wealth doesn't flow to the most qualified. It flows to the least obedient. The ones who questioned the rules, who defied the order, who saw the system for what it was, not a path, but a cage. This is why so many good people struggle, because they were taught that wealth is the reward for virtue. But Machiavelli would laugh. He knew the world doesn't reward virtue. It rewards strategy, and most importantly, it punishes predictability. The masses are predictable. They wake up, go to work, consume, complain, repeat. They react the same way to fear, to fame, to finance. And because they're predictable, they're easy to control. And because they're easy to control, they will never hold power. So what does the Machiavellian do? He watches the herd, but never joins it. He learns the rules, but only to see where they can be bent. He plays polite, but only until silence gives him more leverage than speech. Wealth doesn't require you to be rude. It requires you to be calculating, to trade obedience for observation, to stop moving like everyone else, and start thinking like no one else. Rule 2: scarcity is a manufactured illusion. The masses operate on fear. Fear of not having enough. Fear of being left behind. Fear of losing what little they have. That fear becomes their prison. It's why they hoard, cling, compromise. It's why they undercharge, overwork, and apologize for wanting more. But here's what Machiavelli knew. Scarcity isn't real. It's designed not to protect the few, but to pacify the many. The rulers of old didn't starve the people with food. They starved them with access to knowledge, to networks, to options. Because when people believe there's not enough, they'll fight each other instead of questioning the system. They'll turn on their peers, not their masters. They'll see opportunity as competition, not creation. And this mindset, this scarcity-driven, survival-obsessed, everyone's a threat mentality, is the number one reason most people never get rich. Because wealth is not about holding, it's about flowing. The rich don't hoard. They allocate. They multiply. They move their value through systems that grow while they sleep. Meanwhile, The masses cling. They save, but never invest. They earn, but never strategize. They think they're being responsible, but they're really just afraid. Fear is not financial intelligence. It's financial paralysis. And Machiavelli would say this: the greatest illusion is the idea that fear protects. It doesn't. It enslaves. So what does the Machiavellian do? He rejects fear as his operating system. He doesn't panic in downturns. He doesn't envy in booms. He moves with awareness, not anxiety. He builds systems, not just savings. Because he knows this fundamental truth: the wealthiest men are not those who own the most. They're the ones who fear the least. Rule 3. Consensus is the language of control. You've been told that if everyone agrees, it must be true. But Machiavelli would ask, who benefits from that belief? Consensus is comforting, but comfort is not the soil of power. The masses follow what's popular because it feels safe. But what is popular is usually the most engineered. Think of it. The mainstream media doesn't inform, it guides. Trends don't emerge organically, they're seeded. Public opinion isn't formed, it's shaped. And every time you align your thinking with the crowd, you give up a piece of your sovereignty. Machiavelli never trusted the common opinion. He studied it to control it. Because the masses don't think for themselves, they echo. So what does the Machiavellian do? He listens, but with distance. He observes trends, not to join them, but to see what blind spots they create. He never seeks consensus. He seeks advantage. And when the world moves one way, he quietly moves the other. Not out of rebellion, but out of understanding. The more people who share an idea, the less valuable it becomes. Consensus is not a sign of truth. It's a signal that the idea has been drained of all power. That's why true wealth is never found in obvious places. It's found where others are too scared, too slow, or too programmed to look. The average mind wants guarantees, safety, validation. But Machiavelli didn't care for guarantees. He studied control. And one of his greatest insights was this: the common man seeks protection. The powerful man builds unpredictability. Because if they can predict your move, they can control your outcome. This brings us to the next critical law. Rule 4. Predictability is poverty. The masses follow scripts. Go to school, get a job, climb the ladder, buy liabilities, and call it success. Die with a pension and a plaque. And the most terrifying part? They're proud of it. Because it feels safe. Because it's what everyone else is doing. But wealth is not found in routine. It is found in leverage. And leverage is born from unpredictability. You become rich when you stop being easy to understand. Why? Because systems cannot exploit what they cannot calculate. Machiavelli observed that the most dangerous men in politics were not the loudest. They were the quiet ones. The ones who never reacted on cue. The ones who could not be provoked or predicted. The ones who operated so independently that others began to orbit them. Not out of love, but out of uncertainty. That's the kind of power most will never understand. Because they're too busy being transparent. The modern world worships oversharing. Document everything. Post your plans. Publicize your progress. Confess your failures in real time for digital applause. But Machiavelli would call this intellectual suicide, because the more people understand you, the easier you are to control. So what does the Machiavellian do? He builds in silence. He lets his actions confuse. He lets others guess his net worth, his intentions, his next move. Because uncertainty is a form of psychological tax. It forces others to spend energy anticipating you, while you conserve power. And that's the secret. You don't become rich by being known. You become rich by being misunderstood, underestimated, or unseen, until it's too late. Predictability is the tool of peasants. Uncertainty is the currency of kings. Rule 5. Logic doesn't move the masses. Emotion does. The average person believes they're logical. They believe they make decisions based on reason. But watch closely. They don't vote with logic. They don't spend with logic. They don't invest, react, or even learn with logic. They move with emotion, fear, desire, status anxiety, FOMO, shame. Machiavelli didn't condemn this. He used it. Because once you realize that humans are emotionally driven, wealth stops being an economic pursuit. It becomes a psychological game. Why do the masses chase get-rich-quick schemes? Because they don't want wealth. They want relief. From boredom, pain, obscurity, pressure. Why do they obsess over luxury? Because they think that owning symbols will substitute for building substance. Why do they follow influencers, not strategists? Because they crave emotional resonance, not cold logic. And here's the painful truth. The average person is addicted to feeling rich. But the Machiavellian is addicted to becoming untouchable. He doesn't chase the dopamine hit of a purchase. He seeks the long-term power of positioning. He doesn't need admiration. He calculates behavior. And that's the shift that separates the rich from the hypnotized. Rule 6. The masses obey systems they don't understand. Go ask the average person how money works. They'll say, work hard, save, retire, buy real estate, start a business, invest in stocks. But Machiavelli would ask, who told you that? Because every system the masses trust, whether it's employment, education, or even entrepreneurship, was designed by someone else for a purpose they don't question. Systems are not neutral. They are tools of control. The education system doesn't produce thinkers. It produces compliant professionals. The job market doesn't reward value. It rewards obedience under pressure. Even the entrepreneurial world is now an echo chamber, built around popularity, not power. So what does the Machiavellian mind do? He studies the system, not to obey it, but to decode it. He doesn't just ask, how can I win? He asks, who benefits from me playing this game at all? That question changes everything. Because the moment you stop playing systems blindly, you start building your own rules. And that's where power begins. You create your own economy, your own positioning, your own supply and demand. You stop being a product of strategy and become a strategist yourself. Rule 7. Average minds trade time. Strategic minds trade control. The masses trade time for money. Hourly wages, salaried pay, sacrifice the now in hopes of comfort later. But Machiavelli would scoff, because time is the one currency you can't scale, and the one resource the system loves to drain from the average. They keep you tired, busy, distracted. Why? Because a tired mind doesn't rebel. A distracted mind doesn't question. A drained life doesn't build alternatives. So, the Machiavellian learns early. If you trade time, you will always be cheaper than the man who trades control. Control of distribution, control of information, control of access. This is how kings think. While the masses sell time to platforms, bosses, trends, the powerful build systems that scale without them. Assets, networks, structures that grow in silence while others sleep, scroll, or suffer. And that's the real divide, not between the rich and the poor, but between those who trade time and those who control leverage. Before a man can conquer the world, he must first conquer his own programming. Machiavelli understood that external control is only effective because of internal obedience. The poor are not poor just because they lack money. They are poor because they think like servants. They wait to be chosen. They need to be told what to do. They obey rules they never questioned. They want wealth, but they ask for permission to pursue it. That is not ambition. That is spiritual slavery. So ask yourself, who told you that you must be liked to succeed? Who told you that being humble makes you worthy? Who told you that anger, power, and ego are negative? Look closely. These were not teachings. They were installations, belief systems designed to keep you tame, taught in schools, reinforced by religions, celebrated by the mediocre. Why? Because no system can survive if the bottom stops cooperating. So it moralizes weakness. It tells you that ambition is greed. That strategy is manipulation. That power is evil. And the result? A generation of well-behaved beggars, people who whisper about freedom, but crawl for approval. Machiavelli didn't hate morality. He simply didn't treat it as a starting point. A wise ruler, he wrote, must not be afraid of being feared if it means holding power. This is not about becoming cruel. It's about becoming unapologetic. You will never get rich by being morally perfect in a world run by predators. You get rich by seeing things clearly and refusing to kneel to systems that benefit from your blindness. Rule 8. Respect is not given. It's engineered. The average person believes that if they do good, respect will follow. But Machiavellian psychology flips this on its head. Men judge more by the eyes than by the hands. All see what you appear to be, few know what you are. In other words, you are not respected for your goodness. You are respected for your positioning. This is why a wealthy fool is treated with more reverence than a poor genius. Because perception outweighs substance in the eyes of the crowd. So stop trying to earn respect through effort. Start engineering respect through optics, control, and scarcity. Look at how kings behave. They don't explain themselves. They don't chase. They don't apologize for their ambition. They create a frame where their presence is valuable by default. The rich don't ask to be respected. They assume it because they've built structures around themselves that force others to comply. Brands, authority, mystique. These are not luxuries. They are tools of war in the psychological battlefield of wealth. If you want money, learn math. If you want power, learn perception. Because respect is not a reward. It's a design. Rule 9. Comfort is a currency of control. The masses worship comfort. They confuse convenience with progress. But every empire was built through tolerated discomfort. Machiavelli would call modern comfort what it is: a distraction, a sedative, a beautiful cage lined with dopamine and delusion, streaming, scrolling, gaming, gossip, sexual excess, digital drama. All of it is engineered to numb the drive that once made men powerful. Because a comfortable man is not a dangerous man. He won't risk. He won't fight. He won't build something painful but worthwhile. And that's exactly what power fears. So what does the Machiavellian do? He trains himself to find strength in discomfort. He learns to be hungry when others are full, to study when others are entertained, to act while others hesitate, because every hour you spend resisting ease. You gain ground in a war the average man doesn't even know he's in. Wealth is not found in comfort. It is born in calculated aggression. And aggression doesn't mean violence. It means intensity, focus, movement. While the crowd numbs itself with content, the Machiavellian creates it. While others consume dopamine, he controls the source. And that's the shift. You don't win by resisting pleasure forever. You win by delaying it until your position is so untouchable you can afford to indulge without consequence. Rule 10. You must learn to be alone with power. Why do most people self-destruct the moment they taste success? Because they spent so long needing others. Their identity was built on being accepted. And when power isolates them, they panic. Machiavelli warned of this. Power does not unite, it separates. Because power exposes truth. It shows you who was using you, who was envious, who was pretending. So if you're still addicted to being liked, wealth will break you. Because the higher you rise, the more you will be attacked for the very things that made you successful. Your clarity will be called arrogance, your discipline, cruelty, your independence, betrayal. And if you're not prepared for this, you will sabotage your own ascent just to feel loved again. This is why Machiavellian wealth is not just a game of strategy. It is a game of inner sovereignty. You must learn to stand in silence while being misjudged, to lose allies without begging, to build while others mock, to continue without applause. The moment you can do that, the world no longer owns you. And that's the real goal. Not just to be rich, but to be free. From needing anything the system can threaten to take. The system has trained you to think like a pawn, to wait for moves, to follow paths laid by others, to hope that one day, if you follow the rules well enough, you'll be promoted. But Machiavelli never waited. He designed. The wise man does at once what the fool does at last. This is the great difference. Pawns obey instructions. Architects build empires. And building begins in the mind. It begins when you stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What system can I create so that I no longer need to ask?" The poor look for jobs. The rich create ecosystems. The poor look for better bosses. The rich become environments others rely on. And here lies the Machiavellian secret. Wealth is not just accumulation. It is construction. You construct pipelines, control flows, redirect desire. And if you do it well enough, you'll find yourself in a position where the world moves for you. That's not luck. That's not magic. That's design. Rule 11. Control the narrative or be devoured by it. In the modern world, perception is the new battlefield. Not money, not guns, narratives. Because whoever controls the narrative controls reality. Machiavelli would not be surprised that the richest today are not the smartest or the most moral. They are the ones who understand how to manipulate belief at scale. The billionaire does not just sell products. He sells a story about innovation, about freedom, about disruption. And the masses, desperate for meaning, eat it up. This is your task. Don't just work. Don't just build. Tell a story about what you are building that captures hearts, bends perception, and protects your position. Because truth alone is not enough. You must frame it, package it, weaponize it. If you do not, others will frame you. And you will spend your life defending yourself in a trial you never asked to be part of. Power in the digital age is not about dominance. It's about controlling the story people tell themselves when they think of you. Build that, and money will chase the image you crafted. Rule 12. Mimic nothing. Become the exception. The masses live by imitation. They copy what is popular. They dress the same. They talk the same. They chase the same goals. This is the tragedy. They all want success, but they seek it through mass conformity. Machiavelli would laugh. The moment you copy the crowd, you lose your edge. Why? Because money is a byproduct of differentiation. If they can replace you, they will. If they can predict you, they will exploit you. If you are the same, you are invisible. So what must you do? Study the masses, but never become them. If they consume, you create. If they talk, you observe. If they relax, you move. You are not here to fit in. You are here to carve a path so foreign, so unmistakably yours, that the world is forced to either follow or fear you. The rich don't compete in traffic. They build roads only they know how to navigate. That's Machiavellian wealth, not fighting harder in the system, but thinking in a way that renders the system irrelevant. Rule 13. Make yourself useful to no one, but valuable to all. Dependency is death. The moment you need one client, one employer, one investor, one platform, you are not rich. You are rented. The Machiavellian understands this, and thus builds a Hydra-like presence. Multiple streams, multiple assets, multiple doors. So if one collapses, he doesn't panic. He pivots. The masses live in a constant state of silent fear, because their entire survival is linked to a single fragile chain. But the Machiavellian plays a different game. He is indispensable, but not dependent. He is everywhere, but tied to nowhere. He builds leverage so strong that others compete to be useful to him. So stop asking, how do I become needed? Start asking, how do I become desired without ever needing to comply? This is the final inversion. Do not sell your time. Do not sell your freedom. Build value that cannot be ignored, and you'll never need to ask for anything again. Final words. Burn the map. Draw your own. If you've come this far, you already feel it. Something in you doesn't want to live like them. You don't want to beg, to wait, to be one more echo in a world of obedient voices. You want to command, to build, to reshape the rules in your image. But to do that, you must accept one brutal truth. You will never be rich if you keep thinking like the masses. The masses wait for opportunity. The Machiavellian forces it. The masses seek safety. The Machiavellian thrives in chaos. The masses want permission. The Machiavellian takes position. This is your choice. Continue thinking like them, and you'll end up like them. Or step into the storm. Let it harden you. Let it sharpen you. Let it transform you into something so rare, so untouchably sovereign. That money becomes just a shadow of the power you truly hold. Because at the end of all this, it was never about being rich. It was about becoming someone the world can't ignore.